Good evening, Harambee family. My name is Akeem Jamal, and this is Make It Plain. Tonight, we have two former Los Angeles Black Panthers, Brother Wayne Pharr and Brother Roland Freeman, who's going to talk about their experience in that particular time period, as well as the documentary 41st and Central, produced and directed by Greg Everett. But before we turn to that discussion, I just want to mention the victory that was won by the Scott sisters and how Harambee was on the front line of that struggle to free those sisters who had been in prison for all those years on an $11 charge. This was a collective effort done by a lot of people. Our own Delani, Sister Tanifi, Sister Marpessa, Brother Chanwe Lumumba, and many others, as well as the Scott sisters' family, continue to wage this struggle, and tonight we celebrate a victory. But our main objective is to get free and to liberate ourselves. And I think when we talk about victories, this one sister summed it up very well. And she said that we simply can't look at the problem of white supremacy on a superficial level. The problem goes deeper than that. In fact, the problem has roots in slavery and all of this brutal destruction of our family and the language that came with it. As well as being anti-women, this society is anti-everything. The point is that Western civilization, with its evil, has conditioned all of us, both black men and black women, to do something other than what black manhood and black womanhood should be. To begin with, we must stop attacking one another and start understanding that both of us have an inseparable dilemma. We must stop harping on our own particular viewpoints and grapple with the entire problem and work together to solve the problem. Also, we cannot begin to lump white women problem with the problem of black women. You can't equate dishwash hands with the brutality and the struggle of black women. As for black men who are engaged in a struggle of the most basic kind to regain his manhood in a society that wants to keep him a child, we must either help or hinder that struggle. We must either help or hinder ourselves. Please do not forget that black man has been cheated of his manhood as well as black women her womanhood. I shall never agree to your solution as a black woman. I ask you, what is freedom worth if you haven't got your other half to share it with? On that note, I want to again ask you to support Harambee Radio, support this program, so that we continue to do the research. Because reparation means gaining all the stuff that they stole back from us. And so for a $20 donation, we have a Black Panther t-shirt. For a $50 donation, we have two books. One, The Black Panther Party by Justin Jeffries, Comrade. Another book, The True Life Story of Ifa Bukari, The War Before. And at the $125 level, we have 4 CDs, What We Believe, by the Black Panther Party Library, collection of newsreels. The Black Panther Party, edited by David Hilliard and Cornel West. And finally, the Black Panther Party Reconsidered, edited by Charles E. Jones. Tonight, we're going to talk about a particular period in our history. In order to put that period in perspective, we've got to understand that the Black Panther Party were part of a larger struggle. It was a struggle that was going on in the factories of Detroit when black workers shut down the plants and demanded to be respected and demanded to have equal pay, the same as white workers. That group was called Drum out of Detroit, all across college campuses. Black students were taking over administration buildings, demanding black studies, and then they hired black faculty from Columbia University to Berkeley. There was a black arts movement that started in New York and Chicago and Los Angeles that went around the country and developed guerrilla theater. People were marching in the streets in Selma, Alabama. From 1954 to 1974, black people were in motion, fighting the system of white supremacy tit for tat, often by themselves, fighting with knives and rocks and bottles. Out of that struggle, it was the black youth that picked up the banner that Malcolm had laid down. It was those black youth, as young as 15, little Bobby Hutton, who was killed and murdered in cold blood. This is what our youth faced. Their whole objective was to pick up the crown of African glory, to pick up the sword that had been in the gutter, to get back on the black horse and lead the charge. It was these black youth who began to become a part of a larger struggle, that struggle that was happening on a global basis, from Liberia to Los Angeles, from Haiti to Harlem, from the South Bronx to South Africa. Tonight, we're going to examine the aspect of the Black Panther Party and the youth movement that took place from 1966 to 1969. Brother Kemet, make it plain.
I just want to say to these brothers on a personal note, you know, a lot of times we get caught up, and it's like today when our kids don't really understand what a true hero is, because unfortunately, you know, they think our heroes are athletes and entertainers, and some of them got the morality of a termite. But the reality is that mentality it's just another byproduct of a slave mentality. And it's just like with the gladiators. I mean, the gladiators, they were heroes to some, but they were slaves, most of them. And some things haven't changed. You see how he acted when LeBron left the plantation. But I say that to say this, I want to define to our kids and to our generation and to the generation that missed it all while in the slumber what a true hero is. And I'm privileged tonight to be on the phone with two of those brothers. And what it means is you have to know what it is to feel concussion grenade inches away, to smell the tear gas burning your eyes, bullets penetrating your flesh. These are real-world stories of heroism. You must understand the full spectrum of the human drama and courage. So in the long tradition of honoring our heroes after battle, when soldiers go to war and they get injured in war, they give them a Purple Heart. So in the war for liberation, we the people want to give these brothers and sisters our Heart Award for their wounds. When they act in courage on the battlefield, they give them a Medal of Valor. But we the people want to give you brothers and sisters the Warrior Award for the pursuit of freedom. Your courage to us was no less honorable for making a stand that no one else dared to even attempt. So these powerful and magnetic personalities have earned their place in history because they were prepared to die for what they believed, body and soul. I want to start with Brother Wayne. Can you kind of express to him, because a lot of people got this myth about, you know, what the Panthers was and what the party was about, and they had the gang faction. Could you explain to them that this was a political movement, and could you shed some light on that, Brother Wayne?
Yeah, excuse me. Well, you know, the original name of the Black Panther Party was the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. And, you know, it was political. The first coalition that we made on a national level was with the Peace and Freedom Party. Eldridge Cleaver at one time ran for president, and you know, we were most concerned with the political aspect of the black movement at that time and black nationalism. You know, although the Black Panther Party was not a racist organization, you know, we believed in black power. We believed in brown power. We believed in red power. We believed in power to the people. But in believing with power to the people, our main aspect again, because we were black, was black power. So we had adopted a black nationalist doctrine, that was basically taken from Malcolm X, who was the leading theoretician of black nationalism at that time. And, we tried to move in a political nature to attack this beast. And then we came into conflict with the power structure, which then attacked us. And being young at that time, I think we took a defensive position to their attack, which was the position that they wanted us to take. And it led to a lot of confrontations at that time, because we were not going to back down off of our principles, and they weren't going to back down off of theirs. So it was a clear line of demarcation was drawn, and the enemy could be seen. Everybody came out front. We were out front for the people in black nationalism, and the power structure was out front in its attempt to uphold the system and to keep on creating the madness that they created. So, again, you're right. We were a political party, and we tried to move in a political fashion, and we were thwarted in those efforts. So right on.
Brother Roland.
Right on.
Brother Roland.
I'm here.
Yeah, it's funny these days. Everybody caught up and starstruck and all that. But can you kind of shed some light on this for the people? Kobe ain't no Bunchy, and Cam Newton ain't no Huey Newton.
No, they're not. They're not at all. I guess the deeper. I guess the deeper question of what you're really asking is what happens in the future, or where do we go from here? You understand? But at first, I want to just thank you. There's that good praise you gave us, and all of what Akeem had to say. It was right on the point. You want to start me off talking about the solution to the problem. When I got in the party, I got into the Black Panther Party as to overthrow the government of the United States of America. That's really the reason I got into the party, and it represented that to me at that time, especially what Bunchy started down here, and I happened to be in a position to be right there at the nucleus of it, so it wasn't about no joke or no nothing. The politics that was played, you talked about violence or the street thugs, or what we call a lumpen proletarian. We felt the position that we had was correct, and that the lumpen proletarian would lead a revolution, and the opportunity presented itself for us to be able to make a stand. And I think we was intelligent enough and had enough about ourselves and as black people in America, which, to start the conversation, we'd have to, anytime you have a new conversation, we have to document, our struggle in this country. So all the good house Negroes, that hey, the house is burning down, and hey, master, and I love you, and let me wear the red, white, and blue with you, master. I'm not one of them. There's other Negroes in America. I'm one of those other Negroes in America that, if I had some gas, I'd help burn it down real quick. So that's why what I was doing in the Black Panther Party, because it took from theory to practice, and we actually engaged in trying to burn down the house. And, I think that's the solution to the problem. But, what can I say? So what should we be doing today? Doing the same thing. The difference is that what we did then would put us in Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, because they didn't outlaw all that type of freedom and activity, or being able to fight against them or disagree with them. And I'm talking about white people, white supremacy. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's been dominating the earth and got everybody feeding out of his cup. So that's the enemy and that's the battle. So I'm going to let us get on into it in some kind of depth, and other than me just, throwing it out there like that.
Brother Fred said, you have to understand that the people have to pay a price for peace. And if they dare to struggle, you dare to win. And if you dare not to struggle, then goddamn it, you don't deserve to win. And that's pretty frank and pretty to the point. And what people fail to realize, when the level of evil with J. Edgar Hoover and the powers that threw the blunt force at you, brothers, it was a whole bigger picture. So Wayne, it's like a couple of days prior, 2 or 3 days prior, before the shootout on 41st and Central, when they assassinated Brother Fred. I mean, how did that play into the mindset when it jumped off on 41st and Central for you, Wayne?
Well, that whole 45th, that shootout was in December 9th, I believe, December 8th of 1969. And that whole year, especially that summer, we had been under nationwide, and not just the Black Panther Party, but I'd say the liberation struggle here in the United States was just under a complete pressure by the powers that be. And it was almost really it was. They were trying to annihilate us. The Black Power movement, the Chicano Power movement, and the white, the SDS, the Weather Underground, and all these folks, were under tremendous pressure. So that when our office, prior to the shootout, had been surrounded by the police sometime in November, where they had done a dry run to, check out their capabilities in attacking our offices. Our other offices in Watts on 103rd Street, and then we had community houses in Watts on Grape Street and other locations. I can't remember them correctly, but they were constantly being raided at that time. On a national level, we had offices in Oakland that were being raided, and San Francisco, in Detroit, New York. The whole New York chapter was almost wiped out during that year by a court case of the New York 21. So we were aware that these things were happening, but the viciousness in the murder of Fred Hampton, somewhat took us aback. It was the man was killed in his sleep. It came out in trial that he'd been drugged. That Mark Clark, they shot him through the door. And it just became, it struck us as quite vicious, and that there was no quarter to be given and none to be asked. And that was just the mentality that everybody had. It was there. Like I said, we weren't going to back up off our position, and they weren't backing up off their position. And we had moved to fortify our offices and be able to maintain ourselves from any act of aggression by the pig power structure. And our orders were to make them recognize the Constitution, that one has the right to defend themselves. If we're black men in America, or a man anywhere, that you have the right to defend yourself from aggression, from unprovoked attack of people coming to kill you. And this is what we did. We prepared ourselves to defend ourselves. Again, it was the name of the party was the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. So upon the death of Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, we had made some drastic moves to defend ourselves, and we felt that we were going to be raided at any time, and would have to act in a defensive manner, and lo and behold, that's what happened. So right on to that.
Right. Let me just add. We just assume. Hey, let me say something, Akeem. We assume that the people know 41st and Central was a 5-hour shootout between LAPD and the Black Panther Party. So we throwed it out there, but as we talk about it, we need to let people know exactly what we're talking about and have to, I guess, to describe it some kind of way or another. Or you set the stage, since that's what hosts do.
In fact, Roland, I was going to ask that very question in terms of when they attacked 41st and Central. Just almost the same particular tactics that they used when they killed Fran Hampton, with the idea to go in and kill everybody in there. And could you, describe what actually took place and what is being described in Greg Everett's movie 41st and Central?
Well, that's a big chunk of question there. But let me just let me start off with the shootout. Basically, they had killed Fred Hampton like 4 days earlier, and we had a central headquarters on 41st and Central, which had upstairs and downstairs building, and had offices and rooms and all this kind of stuff. We dug a tunnel, we was trying to dig a tunnel anyway. But anyway, the police, like Wayne has said, and said so eloquently, the police did dry runs and all of this other stuff. I just happened to end up there by coincidence. Wayne was functioning out of the central headquarters. They had me out in Pasadena because of a earlier shotgun foot injury, so I was kind of like out of action, but I happened to stop by there that night and end up in the middle of the shootout with everybody else. So, but basically what happened is they came in there at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. It was the first time that SWAT, it was the first major operation where they had formed SWAT to counteract the Black Panther Party because of our stance with arms and advocating self-defense in our communities. They had formed this group, and they called it SWAT, and that's SWAT that everybody knows. They had run out on a few drug raids and bogarted some drug dealers and stuff, so this was the first big time that they were going to really be tested with this new program. And this is what happened when they come, and they raid the building. They come in the night. It's a brother on the roof. They get him off the roof, but in the process of taking him off the roof, the brother downstairs hears them. He wakes up a couple of people. So when the police bust through the door, put a charge on the door, and bust through the door, they get met with gunfire. And Wayne was right downstairs in the middle of all the real action, and I let him do all the describing. I was upstairs. But as far as the question, was they coming to kill us? Yeah, exactly. They was coming in there to kill everybody in there. That was their intent and purpose. They can say whatever they want to do. They can say they was executing a warrant. They can say anything they want to say. But me being inside that building and the way they came at us, they was going to kill us all. And it was just through the grace of God and their cowardness that we was able to survive and stand them off. Because if they had any kind of heart, when they dropped that tear gas upstairs, it would have been over if they'd have jumped down there, but they didn't. So I'm gonna let Wayne. He was downstairs. I was asleep when it jumped off. I heard gunfire and it woke me up. So the gunfire I was hearing was Wayne them downstairs. So I'm gonna let Wayne do. He can get into that. Right on. And then I'll speak about the movie a little bit later on.
Okay, Brother Wayne, in describing the shootout that took 5 hours, and it must have seemed like it was longer than 5 hours. It ended in daybreak, and from the pictures and even the movie, you can see that there's hundreds and hundreds of black people behind barriers, and the police. You can see that they were totally moved by the support that the community. Could you describe, that how that 5 hour shootout, what actually took place in that battle?
Well, what had happened was, that like Roland said, we were digging a tunnel, and the tunnel that we were digging was leading out to the sewers. And it was going to be an escape route because we knew, again, that the police were coming. So in the grand scheme of things, we had hoped that we could engage them in armed conflict and then at some point get away and use the sewers to effect our escape. Now, the dirt that we were using, the dirt that we were moving around as we were digging this tunnel down to the sewer line, we were using that to reinforce the walls. We were putting it in the walls. We were making sandbags. We had made a bunker on the left and right side of the building downstairs that would keep overhead bullets from coming down. So, we had used that dirt to fortify the situation. In that particular night, I had went down in the sewers because I was, trying to map out a route that we could take. And this is one of the functions that I was doing. So I was down there with some brothers, and we came back. As we were coming back in the sewers, we saw a command post set up. And when we got back to the office, they dropped me off at Central. And I told Geronimo, because he was standing out front at that time, that I saw a police setup. And he told me that he had an informant that said that we would be hit in the next day or two, and that, he was glad to see me back at the office. So at that time, he took me back to the gun room, which he'd never done before, and showed me some weapons and things that we had available. And I fell asleep at that point because it was 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd been up all night. I'd been in the sewers, and now I'm cleaning the gun, and I'm tired. So I fell asleep. And shortly thereafter, Geronimo left, and then a gentleman woke me up, Cotton, and said they were out there. And I said, who's out where? And they said, no, the police, they're out front. So I got up, and I had been cleaning a shotgun, so I was walking to the front door with this gun, and the door blew open just as I got in front of it. So I jumped to the side, and as I jumped to the side, the police ran in, and Cotton had went into the gun room, and we had a Thompson submachine gun. He grabbed the Thompson and got off on the police and jammed them up at the front door, and they fell back out the door, and then at that point, other brothers started firing, and we were able to secure the front door and drive the police back out into the street. And at that point, downstairs, I think Cotton took one bunker, and this other brother, Paul Red, took the other bunker, and I started, shoveling ammunition and getting guns and just trying to organize the defense a little bit. And from there, it evolved into a shootout. I guess Roland can take over at this point, because upstairs started getting some action at that time that he was involved in. Right.
Right on.
Geronimo had been decorated a Vietnam soldier. I think he had received a Purple Heart and some other medals. Was he instrumental in fortifying and preparing y'all for that eventually, for that battle that took place for 5 hours?
Yeah, yes, he was. He was very instrumental. Nobody got killed. And, when the police took me to jail, they told me they had used all the bullets at Parker Center, and they shot all the tear gas they could shoot, that they didn't, that the next step they was going to do was bring a tank in and blow the building up. What he did was very instrumental in us being able to survive.
And even with that, I'm sorry, and even with that, my brother, So, Brother Wayne, and can you, even with that, can you explain to the audience some of the injuries that were sustained in the shootout?
Yeah, well, Mr. Freeman got shot more than anybody.
Hey, that ain't funny, Roland. We ain't laughing at you. We laughing with you, my brother.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I got some bullet holes.
Yeah, you know. So, Mr. Freeman,
I could give you a story about tear gas too. Yeah.
Right.
But let me, Wayne was downstairs. This is the deal that was happening upstairs. I was in the room with a brother named Mims, sleep. Like Wayne said, I had been out in Pasadena, hadn't been to sleep in 2 or 3 days. The reason I was in the city is because they had picked my brother up and charged him with murder, which is what they did all the time. Because my brother was a field marshal, a field secretary in L.A. So police was hard on him, and I got in touch with my mother that weekend, and she said that my brother was in jail. He wouldn't give her no information, that he would go to court Monday in Torrance. So I told her, okay, I'll come to L.A. and go to court Torrance because she had to work and she couldn't take off him. So this is how I ended up getting dropped off at Central Headquarters. And so when I'm leaving, I get a ride with Peaches, who's known as Somalia now, and we end up, anyway, I ended up back at Central Headquarters because she couldn't ride in the car by herself. And that was a party rule, so I ended up back there. I get back, it's like late. They wake me up about 3:30 in the morning, tell me I'm on guard. I'm like, on guard? What's this? What I got to do? They take me up to the roof, give me a 45, tell me to just keep out and look for things. So I'm up there. They say somebody be there in an hour. About an hour and a half go by. Somebody comes upstairs, and it's this brother. I give him the gun, and I go downstairs and go in the room. And as soon as I lay down, I'm like, I'm out. I was out. I was like, the motor had just went gone. I hear gunfire. This is what wakes me up. Me and Mims in the room, we hear gunfire. We jump up. We run across this skyliner where we had because they had the guns on the rack, but you had to run across the skyliner to get to the guns. So we ran across the skyliner, grabbed the guns. We ran back into this back room, which was a library that had dirt and through the walls and had slits that Cotton had made all this stuff up. And so we're in this room, we open up one of these slits and we look out in the streets and we can't see anything, but whoever on the outside, they can see the slit open, so they just start firing up this room. I mean, they just shot the whole room up, so we got to crawl on the floor and like scurry out of this room because bullets is coming. I mean, they just was zeroed in on us. So we go out in the hallway and we end up right back in the room where we had been sleeping, like was a little closet, big closet really. And then you look, and here comes this tear gas. So there was you just see this cloud comes around the corner, and it was tear gas. And when it hit us, like it just knocked us out. It was like we was just out. We was just out for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. We couldn't move. We couldn't do anything. So this is what I'm saying. If they would have had any heart, if they would have had, any real that little He-Man shit and the Marine and all that crap they want to ram down your throat, if they had anything, that's when they would have killed us then, because we couldn't do nothing. We could not do nothing. You couldn't move. Snot and sliver and all that stuff running out your mouth. So anyway, after a while, you start getting immune to it, and that's what happened. So then we could move our fingers, and we could move our hands, and we finally move our legs. Then we kind of like stood up and shook that shit off, and then that's when it really got on and cracking, and it went on for like the next 5 hours. They were shooting up there. They had access to shoot up the top. They couldn't really get at them downstairs, but they were shooting the top. They were just shooting the whole top of the building off. So we had to stay low. In the front, we had bunkers. We had Will Stafford, Pee Wee, Bernard, little young Bernard. They was up in the front. The police was across the street line on the building. They would jump up and shoot at us for a couple of minutes. Then they run out of bullets to stop. Then we jump up and shoot at them for a couple of minutes, and we run out of bullets to stop. Then we duck back down. Then it got to a point where they tried to come through this downstairs and sneak through the front door again, but you could see them in the window across the street. So they would give us the order, and then we'd throw a pipe bomb down, we threw a fire bomb down, and I ended up there was a hole in the back that led to the offices from downstairs upstairs, and I ended up at that hole. They put a charge on the roof, blew the roof up. I got hit across the eye and got cut across the eye with that. Then there was we also had a room where we had a lot of papers. They had thousands of paper stacked up against this back door. But I could hear somebody sounded like somebody trying to come up the steps. So I went over there and shot off a couple of rounds through that door. And the next thing I know, they just started shooting up the room I'm in. And this is when I get hit. I get hit in the arm. My arm go dead. So now I'm and you couldn't go out the room when they were shooting because you would get killed. So anyway, we ended up communicating with each other. The sisters got on the phone and called the news media and called all over town and stuff and got a lot of support, got a lot of people out in the streets and stuff. Anytime, we was communicating from the upstairs to the downstairs, and then after about 4.5 hours, it's like, it was time to come from upstairs, and everybody, got from upstairs, and we was all just downstairs in the office downstairs talking. This is when Tommy gets shot because a gleam of light went across her legs, and she had her legs laid out, and I guess a sniper had traced that gleam of light and shot a bullet and went straight through both her legs. So we was in a situation where, we knew we was going to get killed. We didn't know, so we was talking about, what to do. So didn't nobody want to surrender or be the first one to go out there. We kind of knew we had to surrender, but wasn't nobody going to be the first one to go out there. So when we went around and talked around and we just have to wait here then and, hey, put me in when we get to the hole, just give me a gun because, that's the way it was looking. But then at some point in time, Peaches, Samaya decided that she would go out. She got a little white rag. She went out. The police didn't shoot her and stuff. I guess they had enough too. So that's how we ended up getting out the place without getting killed. And they took us out one by one and then, put us in ambulance. Then as we started going through the crowd, the police pulled out his gun and cocked this little 38 to my head. And I'm like, what's wrong with this guy? I'm all shot up. This ambulance take a bump, I get a bullet in the brain. And then what happened is I could hear the people outside, and they was going through the crowd, and they were scared. And they felt like, I guess they thought like if the people tried to take the ambulance and free us or something, that they was going to kill me before that could happen. Because then when we got to the freeway, he put his gun up, and I'm like, well, damn, I'm glad you did that. So, anyway, and then they took me to the hospital, and the rest is, part of the story.
How about you, Brother Wayne? What kind of wounds did you sustain?
Oh, well, I had a bullet graze my forehead. I took some buckshot in the left side of my chest, and I got shot in the arm. I took some more, just shrapnel shots in my left arm.
Yeah, I got grazed right by my head. That's the one. That was on my arm. I got buckshot everywhere. And then on top of that, what happened after they shot up the building so long, it busted the water pipes. So all that tear gas settled in the water. And by us crawling around up there, I skinned both my knees, and I ended up getting 2 big old tear gas burns on both my knees, which was about the most painful thing that I've experienced. The bullet was all of that was one thing, but that tear gas burn, that was really something else. So, and who else got shot? Peaches got shot. Not Peaches. Tommy got shot through both her legs. And somebody else got nicked. And then 4 police got shot. So there was 4 of them that got shot and 4 of us that got shot. And
Brother
to make a
Wayne,
long story short, we got found not guilty.
Brother Wayne, Brother Roland, I'm privileged enough to be around you brothers, and I just want to say this personally, because there was a time when I know both of you guys, and I know that you don't feel like a hero, but I'm gonna tell you that's not true. If you would have asked Malcolm, he would have told you the same thing. No, I'm not a hero. I'm just doing the people's business. So I get that, but I'm gonna tell you something. There ain't nothing wrong with that, because at the end of the day, I talked to my son the other day, and you know how he respect you guys, and his favorite shirt is the Panther shirt. And I can tell you this, Roland, I can tell you this, Wayne. As long as we live, you guys' name will roll off of my kids' lips as long as I live. And I want to say this because a lot of time we forget. And there's brothers that's in the struggle that's been down 30, 40 years, And I want to say to everybody listening that these brothers put their life on the line. At the most we can do to not let them know that they forgot and their cause went for naught is to drop a line. Because sometimes just for somebody to acknowledge your sacrifice means a lot. It means a lot. And as black people, we got to get back to some things. And a lot of times we get so caught up, you know, everybody got to live, everybody can survive. I get that. But every day we send our kids to school and they teaching them about these battles and these wars. You know, they good about telling them about the 100 they won, but they don't tell them about the ones that they lost. The ones where they getting shot in the ass and shot in the feet running away. They leave that out. So America's full of proper propaganda, like Bob Marley used to say. So we got to, at some point, turn it around with reality. And the reality was, especially for me, it's like, you know, I came up in these streets. I know what it was like before these brothers hit the scene. I really understand what it was like. You know, I witnessed my mom and daddy both getting dragged out the car, beat up on Adams. Right. And I remember how the climate changed after Bunchy. And I asked Roland last week, Wayne, you know, to try to give the people a sense of what Bunchy meant to us. And it was so eloquent what he said about it. And I just want to know from your perspective, Wayne, what was Bunchy about? And can you shed a little light on who Bunchy Carter was?
Well, you know, to be quite honest with you, and I've thought about this recently since the brother's name has really come up, and you know he's getting his rightful play now. I really knew Bunchy from a street level. Now, I knew Bunchy started the party and was in the party here in Southern California. But at that time, my involvement in the party was not that strong. I knew Bunchy more as a slosser, as a brother in the neighborhood who had great clout. And when he started the party, you know, it turned into something that everybody wanted to be involved in. But when Roland and them, when the party first started down here, I was still low riding, so to speak. So I wasn't that political at that time. That didn't come until about 6 or 7 months, I think a month or two before Bunchy got killed. So I can't say that I was that involved with him in the party, you know. But I knew Bunchy from the street, and from the street, and him starting the party, Bunchy had great charisma. Bunchy had great clout. Bunchy was to be respected. Bunchy had a lot of sense. Bunchy had went up to the pen, and it got unfortunately. Back in that time, that's when you got educated, was in the pen, because they had books and you'd be around other brothers. And he had got involved with Eldridge Cleaver, and they had took on a lot of the dictates of Malcolm X, you know. So when Bunchy came out, now what I remember about Bunchy vividly is that we were starting a new gang up at Fremont called Village Assassins. You know, a subset of the Slossons. And we was up at Fremont, we was jumping everybody in, and Bunchy came up, and he said, hey man, there's going to be no more gangbanging. That's over with. He said, we down for black liberation. Now that's what I remember from Bunchy.
And if you said nothing else, that was the most important thing you could have said about Bunchy. Because Wayne, look where we at now. Look what happened after the party. You know, it's funny, they talk about Homeland Security in the Patriot Act. Where's our Homeland Security? Who protecting our borders from the guns and the drugs? We ain't making them, you know. And at the end of the day, there's no vanguard no more. So it even magnifies tenfold how important a Malcolm was, you know, a Panther was, or whoever else was in the struggle for revolution and liberation. And at the end of the day, look who we're left with now.
But see, that's it, and Roland could probably, get into it deeper. But see, that was the strength of Bunchy, where he could get all these different groups together and where they wouldn't be gangbanging. And this is why he was a threat, because he had turned that energy of the gang into the black liberation struggle. And so that same energy that the guys used to have in the gang, they was putting down for the Black Panther Party or for whatever avenue of the black struggle that they were in. You see, and that was powerful. And that's why Bunchy had to be killed. You see,
right.
So and then upon his death and the destruction of the rest of the party, you see this gang thing blow back up in all this madness. And then the government comes in and fuse this gang mentality with all this cocaine they dropped in our neighborhoods. You understand? So now, see, prior, back in the 50s and the 60s, well, when you was gangbanging, you was fighting. And you wasn't fighting with a gun too much. You would have to throw hands a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But then this shit evolved when the power structure saw the strength of the black community and what we could do on our own. They jumped this gang shit back off, and then they flooded our neighborhood with drugs that gave us an economy. So now you got people 40 and 50 years old calling themselves Bloods and Crips because they can make money at this shit. In our day, back in the 60s, in the 50s, you couldn't make no money at gangbanging. So when you got to be about 23, 24 years old and you had 2 or 3 kids, you had to go get a job. So the black community, what we have to understand is since that time, the last 30 years, that the black community has been under attack. And there's no other way to put it. It's been under complete attack with this madness, with this homosexuality, with these drugs, with these gangs. And it's been a breakdown trying to keep the youth from finding themselves and moving forward in an intelligent manner. You see? And then what they've done is they've given us a whole bunch of leaders like Snoop Dogg and Ricky Ross and a whole bunch of people, and they're overlooking the real leaders of the black community. You understand? So this is a design. This is not an accident that we're faced with today. And it's through the efforts of brothers like you that we can get this message out. Right on. That's it.
I would just
right
want to, go on what Wayne was talking about, that the black community is under siege, and we see this situation happening all the time. We saw it with the brother up in Oakland that was shot by the Metro Police. The brother Sean Bell was shot. This is an ongoing battle, and our youth are not even aware of it. And even though you look at the history of, say, for example, one of the names of the Crips was Constant Revolution in Progress. Now, there were some other names that they adopted as well, but the whole point, they were supposed to be the Baby Panthers, as Wayne was saying, when that...
No, actually they were. The party was destroyed. They was able to have an internal explosion of the party, because all of them youngsters was. Like we had an office over there on 78th and right off of between Central and Avalon, right there 78th and Wadsworth, and that's where that boy Raymond Washington, they would come to the breakfast and all that stuff when he was younger. And then this is where, that branch of the Crips come right directly out of, because as we organized people, we was organizing in squads, in the 10-10-10, we had sections, and, everybody in the party had had their own squads. And then everybody didn't come and work out the office. We had a lot of people that never came to the office, that just functioned with us on a section level. And that is the influence that the party had. That wherever the party was, it spread everywhere. So we had youngsters at that particular time organizing each other in groups of squads, 3 or 4 squads, and 3 or 4 or 5 in a squad. Once you get 5, then you split off, and each person in that squad go and form their own squad. And then you go from there and just keep mushrooming it out. This is how we had been organizing in the community since we started the party, and it was going on full steam, even at the demise of the party. So when the party was split, and that foundation was taken away, and they hit the community with, like Wayne said, with the drugs, and then a few years later they find out that they can make some money. Now we're dealing with the exact problem that was trying to derail these youngsters from having any political consciousness, because the only thing that did, you take the Bloods and Crips, you put a political consciousness there, you got the Black Panther Party. You take the political consciousness out, you got the Bloods and the Crips. And you got the individualistic, built on greed and money and having everything and only caring about yourself and all that kind of stuff. And that's what America's built on. That's what capitalism is all about too. So,
Did Tukey Williams come up through that process as well?
Actually, no. He was more on the gangster tip, from my understanding.
Okay.
See, a lot of the people in the party, and this is part of about what we're trying to accomplish with this movie, 41st and Central, is that we want to get and document on tape a lot of people that was around at the time. There was a lot of younger members in the party, which most of the people in the party was young, and they was relating to younger people. Like I said, I was like 22, so by the time, in whatever, 71 or 72, I'm like 45, whatever, 27. But these guys was like 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, so they had all kind of connections with these youth. And then when the party split, everybody kind of they just got left out on their own. And then Huey P. Newton, they kept the structure, but they ended up closing the party down here and sending people up north. So all the people that had an interest in the party, either that was supported the Eldridge side or the Black Liberation side, they went underground, and that's a whole nother story. That's who we talking about, the brothers that's still in prison, and that we need to reach out and keep in contact with them. And I gave my phone number last week, but I didn't get one call concerning anybody that had any interest in Pharr is trying to keep in contact or write in these brothers, because I got all their addresses and all that kind of stuff on them, and I'm sitting right there ready to pass that information on. So this is, a part of the struggle, and they came in, it was a direct link. You understand? The other stat you have to understand is that when we talk about the government, the CIA, the FBI, the Army Intelligence, the National Security Council, the diplomatic corps, the Secret Service, every aspect of the government, the Army Intelligence, the Navy Intelligence, the Air Force, every aspect of the government had zeroed in on the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Struggle. And since we was the vanguard and we was advocating armed revolution, they really zeroed in on us. You understand? So we had a total, complete, internationally, anywhere we was, wherever we was at. That not just say they want to make it like we was some kind of little nuisance, but no, they government they had to use to counteract us and what the activities that we was trying to accomplish, which were black people.
And brother Wayne and brother Roland, tell us about your part in this movie 41st and Central, and explain to us what this movie is really about.
Well, I have to do that. Basically, what happened is I met Greg back in 1990, and we was talking, and he told me, his father had been a Panther, and I'm like, right on, fine. If I had a nickel or dime for every person that told me that, I'd be a millionaire. But anyway, I don't discount anybody. We hooked up, and what had happened is that, people say, you should write a book, you should write a book. And the reason is because I did get involved when it began. I was there when it ended. I ended up in the shootout. I ended up in the split with getting busted with Geronimo. So it is a integral part of my life. So I'm like, why write a book when we got this modern technology? So this is when we start doing the film. And then it's like, let's call it 41st and Central. We got different ideas where you can make a movie. And it all focuses around 41st and Central, which was the high water tide mark of the Black Panther Party, as far as our existence dictated that we defend ourselves, and that was the high mark of when the government, with all its power and strength, came to get us, and we was able to withstand that onslaught and come out of it alive and be able to talk about it, and then go to court and get found not guilty as far as trying to kill the police, which was, when they shot at us, we was damn sure trying to kill them, So this is what we wanted to do, and then we wanted to document a lot of the Panthers and people that was around, supporters, people that was around back in that time, and get it on tape, so we can dictate and have our own history, dictate our own history. So this is what the project is about. He did the first 2.5 hours. Him being the producer and the guy doing it and doing all the effort and the money, I just kind of let him go his way. What can I say? I think he did a beautiful job. And I wouldn't quite, I'm real focused. I only care about what I care about. I care about black people. I care about our struggle. I care about, winning. He spent a little bit too much time maybe trying to explain the police or the orangutans or all that other stuff, and all that's a part of history, but I just would have did it a little bit different. So, and on a personal note, so I have to, say that because when you have an idea and you see it taken, but it go in a different direction, and you're like, okay, fine, I can go with that. But he did a great job. He let Elaine and a couple other folks talk a little bit too much, but that's all right. What can I say? So I'm a co-producer on the movie, and I'm quite happy. And, hopefully if we get some money, then we can film everybody that was around that wants to be documented and have an archive, and we can preserve it for history because we are passing away. And shout out to the brothers that's Marvin Jackson and other brothers that's just Abdullah, Julius, and other brothers that's passed away in the last few years. Gregory, you know who I'm talking about. Yeah. But anyway, we need to throw that out about our ancestors too. Right on.
Yeah, Michael.
So that's the gist of the movie. And somebody talking, and it basically it documents the party from when it starts up until a bunch of gets killed, and then the second part of the movie is going to actually be focused on the shootout on 41st and Central. So, but we got like 2.5 hours, and it's quite gripping. It's won the best movie for the fans at the Pan African Film Festival. He had get all over the world trying to show the film, but he need to get that money so we can really complete the real project, which is to document our history.
And that's more profound and more important than people can imagine. It's another byproduct of this captivity we've been through so many years. You just said something, and me and you both, we put it out there last week, and I appealed to it again tonight, and I'm appealed to it again. And at some point in history, as black men and as black women, we got to take care of our own. Nobody else going to do it. We got to take care of our own. And I don't see anything more in my lifetime significant than taking care of our own when people put themselves on the line for us. But we get so caught up, and I'm just going to keep it real. I don't want to offend nobody, but yes, I do. We get so caught up with Oprah Mammy Winfrey and Tyler Stephen Fletcher Perry, and sometimes we got to understand why we got Mr. Brown. At a certain point, we don't have to get back to understanding what real manhood is. And real manhood is taking care of our own. Taking care of our own. I mean, you got people put it out there that, okay, well, you ain't got no job, you ain't no man, even if you want one. Oh, you ain't taking care of your family, although you want to. But if you white, it's just an ordained right that you just a man. So we got to start waiting on certain things. And, I always tell a king this. It ain't so much what we got to do. It's what we got to stop doing. We got to stop financing everybody else in the world and turn back to each other. Because at the end of the day, only way I can be free is if you free. So till we fundamentally understand that whole other thing, karma going to take care of that. Right. But we have to get back to oneness. We have to get back to what it made us the people we were that created this thing called civilization. We got to get back to that kind of kinship ties. I mean, it's funny. We out here on the front line every day, me and Akeem, and we dealing with these gangs, and it's funny. The brother says to me, he says, well, I've been shot 6 or 7 times. I'm like, brother, you don't leave your neighborhood. Your whole range of motion is 6 blocks because everybody know you. So it's like shooting fish in a fishbowl. They just roll up in your neighborhood, and unfortunately, sometimes innocents get caught up in that because we done turn the neighborhoods to the gates to the cemetery.
Right.
So at a certain point, we gonna have to understand, okay, Lexus of justice. We gotta, that's what this show is about. I'm gonna make this real plain. If we don't take care of each other, we're doomed. We're doomed. If you waiting on somebody else to take care of us, we're doomed. And like I said, only equals can be friends. Why would they want us at the table? Only equals can be friends, and we don't want to be at the table. We want our own table that we can invite who we want to come in. So my plea one more time, if you brothers can't pick up a pen and write a letter, that shows a lot about who you are and what your character is.
Right.
And it's okay if you didn't do it before. We're telling you you can do it now. It's like Sankofa. It's never too late to go back and do it right.
Yeah. The number is 323.
I just wanted to put that out there. So give them a number again, Roland.
323-294-8320. And that's a community youth center, and they will take a message and make sure I tell them you want to leave a message for Freeman, and I'll get the message and pass the information on.
And we're the most compassionate people on the planet. Let's show them that we ain't lost everything. You know, let's show them we ain't lost everything. You know, we care. We care about our own. We're going to have to some point get back to caring about our own, taking care of our own. You know, we got to stop waiting. What are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? We have to save
Let me just say, these brothers in jail, a lot of these brothers in jail, they was putting down some serious work against the police, against the power structures, and against the banking system, against the you know, they was putting down some serious work. And, you know, it wasn't criminal activity that got them in jail. It was political activity that got them in jail. They were in jail because of their politics and their uncompromising stand is that they wouldn't back down and take this, like Wayne say, shit. You know, so, you know.
If we had more of an understanding about that, we have less kids in trouble now, chasing the wrong thing.
Right on.
But you know, gentlemen, we are closely to the end of this program. I just want to you know, give you guys the last words and wrap this up. You know, I think that last week I asked Brother Roland, I said, you know, a lot of people don't realize that more Panthers got killed here, and in answering my question, you clearly laid out that these brothers and sisters were about armed struggle, and I think that we have to understand that these were the most dedicated brothers and sisters, and that they put their lives on the line. Now, even if we go back to 65 during the Rots Rebellion, there was a certain level of consciousness. And what people don't realize about that rebellion, unlike the rebellion of 64 in Harlem, was that it was an armed rebellion, that the black folks in the community held the police off for 3 days and then held off the National Guard for another 3 days. So that consciousness had already been laid. Even when Malcolm came out here, and Professor Grant alluded to that, when the brothers got killed at the mosque, got injured at the mosque, Malcolm came out here and said that the African people in Los Angeles were ready to move and retaliate. So we see, when we start connecting the dots from 64 to 65, the groundwork had already been laid, the seeds had already been laid. And so when Bonchie Carter transformed the so-called gangs into the Black Panther Party, you can see that people were beginning to move in a whole different direction. We want to give you, brothers, the last words, because the conditions that were in the 60s and the 70s are the same conditions that we face today. There's nothing changed.
Right.
In fact, the enemy has become more entrenched. You know, as Brother Wayne pointed out, we are under siege from all ends. You know, we are a nation within a nation, a colonized subject of white supremacy. And there's nobody out there beginning to defend this community, beginning to stand up and say, enough is enough. Brother Wayne,
well,
you got, and Brother Roland, you guys got the last word.
Let me go ahead on because I'm ready. Because what I want to say is that the bottom line is that we living in a police state. We living in a military, whatever you want to call it. Anytime a country can just go at its whim and declare war on the people and just bomb and kill people for what it considers it right and wrong, whether it's right or wrong or not. And anytime the people in that country just condone this type of killing and murdering of people, something is wrong. And as a child, I was taught to hate the Japanese and call them Japs because that was, World War II. Then I was supposed to hate the Nazis. Then I was supposed to hate the Koreans. Then I was supposed to hate the Vietnamese. Then I was supposed to hate the Grenadians. Then I was supposed to hate the Somalians. Then I was supposed to hate the Afghans. Now I'm supposed to hate the Iraqis. We living in this belly of this beast, and we by silence we condone that. So we have to speak out against that. We have to speak out about this white supremacy, this evilness that we're fighting, and where I'm gonna just close on that tune because I just want to put things on people's mind that we living in a hypocritical society. We living in an evil empire. And when you pick up that red, white, and blue and you start waving it, talking about you just like your master, then there's something wrong with that picture. And those that want to be and ride and go down with him, fine. I'm the kind of black that don't want to go down with him. I think he's wrong. I think he's evil, and I think that we need to keep standing up. And black people, specifically here in America, got to stand up and speak truth to earth about this beast that is trying to rule the world, which is white supremacy. Right on.
Brother Wayne.
All right. I've got a take on that, is a lot of times we're our own worst enemy. And the power structure, again, let me digress a second. Elijah Muhammad always used to say that he's the master of trickeration, you know what I mean? And the white man is the master of trickeration. He can make you hurt yourself. Wait a minute. Everybody in the country got diabetes, and the number one commercial on TV is McDonald's. That ought to show you where he's coming from. He don't give a damn about you. There's no gas, gas is $5 a gallon, and he's trying to sell you an SUV. So it's he doesn't give a damn about you. He floods your neighborhood with drugs and then calls you an addict for using them. He doesn't give a damn about you. So we as a people have to wake up, and we have to turn our backs on certain things. We have to turn our backs on gangsterism. We have to turn our backs on drugs. It's black liberation. And we as black people, we've got a lot bigger issues that we have to hold our mug for. We can't be out there willy-nilly because we have black liberation to deal with, and we don't know who's looking at us. And we have to understand that the youth is out there looking for example. So even if we don't have a job, or even if we don't have a car, we, as the brother said earlier, you're still a man. So you have to recognize and be a man and be a woman, and you have to sacrifice. The greatest thing we can do for our people is self-sacrifice. If we can help somebody, well, maybe we can't get the biggest house on the block. Maybe we can't get the biggest car on the block. But maybe we'll get a car, but we have to be able to help somebody and to include them in our success. As the brother said earlier, we have to help each other. At the end of the day, if we don't give each other mercy, who's going to give us mercy? If we're going to run off in the wrong house and kill 5 or 6 people over a drug deal, who's going to give us some mercy out here in the streets? If we're going to kill each other over money that comes and goes and you can't take it with you when you die, who's going to give us some mercy? You see, so we can't get caught up in this white man thing, this gangster thing. He puts that gangster image constantly out in our community, in every community. This is how he portrays himself. Scarface, the Godfather, Al Capone, John Dillinger, Jesse James, Billy the Kid. We know all about these people. You understand? And they no good. We need to know about Martin Luther King, Huey Newton, Malcolm X, Eldridge Cleaver. These are the people we have to deal with. People that saw the system and might have been on the wrong side of the system, but came back, understood that what they were doing was wrong, that the system was wrong, and they came back to the people. Power to the people.
Right on.
I just want to say, Roland and Wayne, I love you. And don't nobody love like black folks love, my brother.
Yeah, that's true.
I just want to tell you, gentlemen, it was a great show. Maybe, we reach somebody, and if we didn't, we're going to keep pounding the drums.
Yeah, all right. That's all you can do. And all you need is one. You don't need a whole lot.
That's it.
You just need one.
Great show, my brother.
Right on. Don't take
I just want to tell you again, man, from the bottom of my heart, man, you brothers already know how I feel. And I like how Wayne mentioned all those names, but he forgot too. Wayne Pharr, Roland Freeman.
All right.
Right on, brother. Right on.
Yeah, I just want to end on this note. The struggle continues. No matter where we are, when we have to throw a stake, draw a line in the sand, no matter where we are, we just got to fight the system because it's parasitic, it's destructive, it's toxic. We're eating the wrong foods, we're doing the wrong things, we're in the wrong place. If we just let go of this system and start building a black nation, then all of this thing will take care of itself. And I think that, you brothers, the testimony of what you guys went through, the kind of conviction that you had, the kind of determination that you had, and to come out from on the other side, to tell that story, I think that's when we begin to talk about our own history. And this is what this whole program is, talking about our own history. Not some what white folks made up, not some Hollywood movie about the Panthers, but brothers and sisters who lived it, went through it, and still here. Brother, want to thank you again. Right on, Black Power. Good night.
Good night, brother.
All right,
power to the people.
Right on. All power to the people.